In Toronto, delinquencies are passing 2014 levels, so 11-year high for mortgage delinquencies. What the f does that tell you about the Toronto housing market? And people are looking around all these projects like, who the f are you going to sell these to? Because it's sure as hell not the locals, because they can't afford it. They just can't. There's no way. Prices would have to correct like 60% and then some more. Even the mainstream media is admitting how bad the condo market is in Canada and just how many developers are on the brink of bankruptcy right now.
We're seeing sales have stopped.
The industry says even as interest rates, the cost of materials, and municipal taxes have decreased, buyers still aren't biting.
Or are actually going into bankruptcy, as we're going to explore right now. So this is Curve in Vancouver facing receivership. So it's very interesting what's going on here, because you've got a ton of debt which is related to the big banks in Canada, and obviously this property is valued way less than all of the debt outstanding, which is something I've been saying has been going on because we've been talking about this for a while. If you look at what's happened to the amount of bank lending to these developers, which are risky, they are going bankrupt, they are having major issues, as we've been highlighting on this channel, it is absolutely skyrocketed. And this is the complete opposite of what you would think a risk-off bank would do in an environment like the shitty housing market in Canada right now. I mean, who would lend this much? And once again, what this article does is it shows and exposes just on what shaky ground all these banks are really on, because it's not just this project, let's be honest. So Curve's set to be the tallest passive house structure in the world, and the pinnacle of luxury real estate in Vancouver is facing insolvency. The property currently consists of 2 vacant apartment buildings that BC assessment values at $38 million. The receivership against Curve was initiated on Friday, July 11th by the Royal Bank of Canada, which includes the Bank of Montreal and Meridian Credit Union. Now, what's really interesting about this, and I've been saying this time and time again, is the Royal Bank of Canada has obviously been in the news about the blanket appraisal that we've been covering on this channel. Toronto developers stay afloat borrowing against unsold condos, which are just never going to sell. I mean, this it has been done. It's been done in China. We've had extremely leveraged developers, and how did that work out in China? Did not work out well, did it? Ended up with lots of skyscrapers just being outright demolished because they were never going to get finished. And I've been saying that a bank that's in trouble does something like that. Not a bank that everything is going great and they're not overextended at all. They know that they've lent too much to this industry, and if this industry fails, then it's going to blow a hole in their balance sheet, and it's going to affect their earnings, which will affect their stock price, which will affect the earnings of the CEOs. And of course, these they don't want that. They don't want that at all. So just risk your money instead. That's what they're doing. And also the CMHC, they're backing this as well. So according to court documents, the two sides entered into a mortgage agreement in May 2023 and later amended it several times for the principal amount of $90 million with a maturity date of April 30th, 2025. Under the loan agreement, the developers could extend the maturity date to July 31st, 2025 if they paid an extension fee of $225,000 before April 30th, 2025. The extension fee was not paid, the loan matured, and Brivia Group thus defaulted on the loan agreement, which had Brivia Group's founder, president, and CEO, Keng Lai, serving as the guarantor. The lenders then made a formal demand for payment June 11th. That wasn't paid, obviously. According to RBC, the outstanding debt owed as of July 10th is $91,204,611.06, not including interest that continues to accrue. RBC notes that there are several other mortgages and charges registered on the land title, but the exact amounts were not provided. So you basically got a property right now that is worth here around $38 million, and there's currently at least $91 million owed on it. I mean, this just goes to show the level of leverage leverage. Who lends that much money when the property is only worth $38 million? But again, the amount of lending that has gone to all these developers over the past few years as the condo market has got into trouble has absolutely skyrocketed. And it's from the big banks. It's from the likes of RBC, BMO, CIBC. These are the banks that have lent to these condo developers. And just to give you an idea of where the condo market is in Vancouver, this is in Burnaby, and this sold for a 24.57% loss, but it sold for less than it did in 2018. So you are talking about 7 years and a loss of $430,000. And as I point out here on X, they lost more per year than the average salary in Burnaby. So people are just being absolutely destroyed by what's going on. But this just shows you what type of luxury condo market you have in Vancouver and Burnaby right now. This is a 2-bed, 3-bath luxury condo, and it's just an absolute disaster what has happened. It was sold here for $1.75 million back in 2018, just sold for $1.32 million. So the money launderers and all the cartels, it seems to have dried up now in Vancouver, and people are looking around all these projects like, who the f*** are you going to sell these to? Because it's sure as hell not the locals, because they can't afford it. They just can't. There's no way. Prices would have to correct like 60% and then some more for the locals to be able to afford it. I mean, it's just an absolute joke what's going on. Vancouver real estate sales fall most inventory since Bank of Canada suggested a bubble. Not just in Vancouver, you got Toronto mortgage delinquencies, which have tripled, highest in over a decade. So you can basically see this chart goes all the way back to 2014. Mortgage delinquencies now at 0.22%. But I would argue that that's not really accurate because, again, it's not including all the riskier type lenders, which would pull up this rate significantly. This main data is just coming from the major banks. What's reported by the major banks? So, I mean, you have to take this data with a pinch of salt. But what it shows us is it shows us a trend. And it shows us historically where we're at right now. In Toronto, delinquencies are passing 2014 levels. So 11-year high for mortgage delinquencies. What the f*** does that tell you about the Toronto housing market? That doesn't tell you that the Toronto housing market is fucking rock solid right now. It tells you that those biggest bubbles, which were Toronto and Vancouver, they are cracking, and so much money is leveraged on these two bubbles that it will take down the Canadian economy. And that's what most people don't understand or realize, and it has the potential to blow holes in all the major banks' balance sheets, making it a very, very risky time for them. And they are very leveraged, like everything is just great right now. So that is not a good sign at all. So again, sales are falling right now. Greater Vancouver real estate prices fell but remain lofty. You know, when demand is falling like this, what that does is it points to the fact that the prices need to come down a lot. And that's what's really going on. So yes, you can stagnate. This happens in all kinds of bubbles where you have the blow off top, comes back down, corrects, comes up a little bit into this bull trap, then just trends sideways as people are in denial. They're like, eventually it's going to start going up again, not realizing that it now needs to correct down to fundamentals in order to start going up again. And that's just not going to happen until you see that capitulation and fear, which will be coming if this is a textbook bubble, which it's played out so far just as a textbook bubble. So you know that this is likely coming down the pipe. So Greater Vancouver real estate demand remained uncharacteristically weak last month. Home sales fell to 2,180 homes in June, 9.8% lower than last year. The unusually slow month was 25.8% below the 10-year average for June, and the second weakest sales in the past 25 years, only behind 2019, which might I add, the yield curve was inverted in 2019, and then we saw what happened after that, but we didn't know about the massive amount of money printing that was going to go on, and that caused inflation, which caused interest rates to go up. So that was not bullish for real estate in the end, as as we're seeing it play out still right now. Again, if that happens, yeah, you might see a knee-jerk reaction, but then what happens after that will be very similar to what we're seeing now. So Greater Vancouver real estate inventory hits highest level since Bank of Canada suggested it was a bubble. This was obviously in 2013, 2014 when they suggested that, and now you're at a high not seen since then. So once again, it's showing you, and I don't see investors rushing in to buy this crap because they know that essentially who's going to buy there when you've got the government saying we don't like foreign investors, everybody's anti-investor, all the rental laws are anti-investor. So I don't see investors pouring into this market, and they can't make ends meet anyway. It's been a speculative market. People haven't been doing this as an investment. People have been doing this as a speculation. An investment is when you're actually making money on the cash flow. You don't care about the value. A speculation is when you're not making money, you're just hoping the value increases. It's like speculating on the NASDAQ or anything like that. It's the same type of thing. It's just people don't have a clue what they're doing when they're doing real estate. They think they're investors. The reality is they're actually speculators. And then John Flynn just posted this. June just saw the largest national supply in 6 years. So again, what does that tell you? It tells you that prices need to come down. And you've been seeing this trend just go up and up and up since 2021. So, you heard this narrative during 2022 and 2023 of, oh, we just need more supply. I mean, it's still going on right now. The supply is coming online, and it's not down to government intervention or anything like that. It's down to the collapsing economy. And then this was put on by Danielle Foch, and this shows what's happening in Toronto. All these condo projects are cancelled, converted, or in receivership. So you can see that 4 of them here are in receivership. You've got 5 that have been converted to rentals, and then you've got 4 that have been cancelled. And the thing is, these condo projects as well are often running into hundreds of millions of dollars, and these were things that would have gone into the GDP figures, that would have pumped up those figures, because those GDP figures were incredibly pumped up by the housing bubble and the housing market and the growth of it that we saw over the past decade. So it really goes to show what's going on. And then you have to wonder, like, since 2021, where has all this money gone? You've had like 200 billion at least that have been pumped into new loans to the private sector. I guarantee a lot of that has gone to what? It's gone towards real estate. And this is just to the private sector. We're not even talking about residential mortgages and things like that. So all of these for these new condo projects and things like that, because they're incredibly leveraged. And then you've got loan loss provisions at the banks, which total around 10, 12 billion. And you've got hundreds and hundreds of billions in loans. So it's just absolutely insane. The total is nearing $1 trillion as we get up here. Right now, it currently stands at around 700 billion in loans to the private sector. So it's an absolute insane amount. So this whole condo market right now seems to be in jeopardy, and the risk to the banking system, you know what it is. You know what's going to happen. I think it's pretty obvious here. So anyway, if you've enjoyed this video, I'd highly recommend that you check out this video here. And then if you're looking for a VPN, use the VPN that I'm using right now and I've been recommending for years. That is ExpressVPN, because it's the best VPN. And I will see you in the next one.